Today's video is deeply, deeply personal and a long time coming, and I wanted to make it for the main reason that if you are what I'm about to talk about, a highly sensitive person, an HSP, I want you to feel like you are not alone. It is very easy for those of us who feel the way that we do, and I'm going to go into definitions, I'm going to go into a few things to feel like we're the only ones that feel this way, that navigate the world in this way, that have experiences the same way that we do, and that is not the case. So to start off, we're going to share the statistic that maybe you already know, but maybe if you don't, is an important one, that 15 to 20% of the population is highly sensitive. So we're definitely not alone, okay? I remember seeing a video a while back. I've been researching on highly sensitive person since I don't know, maybe I was 15, 16 years old because I'm a deeply, deeply, deeply highly sensitive person. And I used to be also very shy and naturally introverted, which are all different things. If you know, you know. And so I remember finding the research, the books written by Dr. Elaine Aron, and the book called The Highly Sensitive Person, and then The Highly Sensitive Person in Love. And I think at the time I was in relationship, and it was very interesting to see how to experience how seen I felt. And I also want you to experience the same with this video. So with what I'm going to share, I'm not just going to share, some of my own personal experiences, but also a little bit of research that I've done. And I think the first thing I want to share is what I saw in that one video a few years back that really made me say, okay, I got to do something with this. I have to write, I have to reach out, I have to do a video on this because it wasn't what I saw in the video, but what I saw in the comments that made me think this, okay? So the video was about what is a highly sensitive person. And of course, by that time, I already knew what a highly sensitive person was. I've read all the books, I've done the research, I've also dove, deep into empathy, into sensory processing, all these different things as a life coach and an astrologer, and, having studied Reiki and yin yoga and so many different things as we naturally do, and you'll see as I share some of these things when it comes to hobbies and careers. I knew that already what the video was talking about, the DOS, which is the first thing that I'll share with you, okay? The DOES framework. But I didn't realize what I had read in the comments. And I think that is the second thing that I'll share with you. So when I looked at the comments in this video, I saw so many people saying, yes, that's me. And this is what I do. And I'm going to share what they do so you can maybe implement or see or self-check to see, okay, well, I have this in complete activation, and so I should be good. But if not, maybe it'll come as a surprise, and maybe you'll feel like, okay, I can dive deep into that as well so that I can feel very well resourced and very well positioned for what my design was built for. That's the key. Okay, so first I want to go into the DOS framework, which I think we all kind of, if we have done a research on highly sensitive people, we're going to be familiar with because it's the first thing that you Google and you kind of come up with when it comes to AI or whatever thing you're using as a resource to research, okay? So the DOS framework is the DOES. It's the thing that really defines, or the psychologists use to define, the highly sensitive person. And the first component of that is, of course, and you're going to relate to every single one of these if you're not familiar with this framework, the acronym DOES, DOES, is D for depth of processing. Now, what does this mean? This means that those of us who are HSP, highly sensitive people, we are deep thinkers. We are deep emoters. We are deep feelers. We take our time processing, events that have happened, experiences that have taken place. I'll give you an example. Before I did a ton of work to really resource my nervous system, a breakup or a betrayal in a friendship or something difficult happening with a client was something that affected me really, 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 really deeply. Now, this is normal for an HSP, but the recovery time for me was long, very long. And it's typical for HSPs to just cry it out for days, to really think about it and just be continuing in the loop of like, what could I have done better? How do I make a different decision in the future? What can I do in order to not have this situation happen again? If I need to heal or repair with somebody, how can I make that happen? I remember one time, something, there was a very deep betrayal that happened in my life a few years ago. It was in a relationship. And I remember in order to have the conversation with the person, I mapped it out in my big dry erase board, how the conversation could take place and what I would do, what I would say. This was something that was a very, 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 very big betrayal, something ugly, something deep, something that stayed with me for a very long time. And you could call it as traumatic because it definitely was. And not just, it wouldn't just be for an HSP, it would be for any other type of person without our particular nervous system, because that is what an HSP is by definition, isn't it? HSP is someone with a naturally super high responsive nervous system. We have a higher activity in mirror neurons. So we're high empaths and all this stuff. And as I was processing this betrayal, I just really needed to be able to think about it in a way that wasn't going to stay in my head. And so I mapped this whole thing out, how I would approach the conversation, letting this person know exactly what I had felt, because I knew, and I know, and you know, if you're HSP, that most people are not feeling to the depth that we are feeling. And a lot of the times when things happen to us, let's say someone says or does something that really affects us, we will experience it in a very different way than the average person. And so I felt like I needed to communicate what really was the experience. And this person, I think, was maybe surprised a little bit and handled it okay. But it took me still, even getting up the courage to communicate what I needed to communicate, took me a while to do. Took me a while. I had to rehearse it. I mean, it was deep. And this is something, I'm someone who coaches people on speaking up, saying no, setting boundaries, getting their communication right, getting their goals achieved, and all of these things. And because I'm a sensitive, I'm able to do that work even probably deeper than your average coach. But also, when those things are my own, it takes me also a while to process them. So, anyway, that is the D, depth of processing. And I share examples with you because, again, we want to know that we're not alone in this. Many of us are experiencing life in the same way. So, if you're one of us, don't worry. All of us do the thinking, we do the deep feeling, we do the mapping out. And if it helps you, great. We have, with that depth of processing and that depth of thinking and that depth of feeling comes a very rich inner world. And I think that that level of imagination, for example, with my coaching clients, I'm able to take them into what we call soul journeys when we are identify something that needs to be reprogrammed in the subconscious. I'm able to take them really, really deeply into a journey through their imagination from beta to alpha to theta in order to really deeply, deeply, deeply touch on what's in the subconscious mind so that they can heal. That's a gift. Okay. So these things that we have, they're there for a reason. The way we're designed, we were designed for a purpose. And right now, as the world is going through a time of transition and we're shifting so, so much in this world, careers, relationships, structures, ways of living, those of us who are deeply sensitive and we have this depth of thinking and this depth of emoting, this depth of feeling, we're able to really spot other people's beyond situations. And most people think here on the surface that whatever's happening is A, B, and C. And we're able to see that underneath all of that, it's a X, Y, and Z. So it's a super, super gift. You have to know how to manage it for yourself. And for me, nervous system regulation has been a game changer. Okay. So that's the D, depth of processing. Then we also have overstimulation. Now, if you are an HSP or if you haven't identified yourself as one yet, but you're hearing me and you're like, well, that sounds like it might be me. Overstimulation is probably something that you've experienced in the past and very often. Okay. What does this mean? Because it takes us, we absorb a lot of information from sensory wise from our environment. Okay, it's a lot of information. We can easily, our nervous system can easily get overstimulated. So it can reach its limit. It can reach a point of like, I'm done. So I'll give you an example for this. And this can happen, let's say you walk into a room and the room is very crowded with a lot of things, maybe a lot of colors, maybe a lot of noises, a lot of things that your senses, right? You're hearing, you're seeing, your touch, textures, all this stuff can find like this is way too much for me. It's easy to feel that way as a highly sensitive person. And some of us are more like, hey, noises are the thing that bugs me. Or some of us are more like, fabrics are the things that bug me. And I need to really be surrounded by, I don't know, organic cotton and all this stuff. And some of us are like, none of that bugs me, but actually people's energy, like the amount of people in the room, and if it's negative energy, I can't deal with that. Or very similar to introverts. And if you're an HSP who is also an introvert, you'll understand this as well. Introverts, when they have spent a lot of time with many different people, or in a crowded room, or in at a concert, at a conference, that's draining for us. That's draining for an introvert. And it's similar. It can be the same for an HSP, this component of overstimulation. Too much time interacting, the same with as an introvert, can be like, okay, now I need downtime. I need downtime to recharge, quiet time away from people so that I can just recover from being in so much contact with so much information. Maybe you just had a full day of talking to a friend who's just like super extroverted, super chatty. The extroverts are funny in the sense that they are, even when they're reading things, right? They're reading a menu at a restaurant. If you're having lunch with somebody, they'll be like, this, that, and they're and me as an introvert, I'm like, as if I hear you say, the pasta with the peas and the carrots and stuff, that's what I'm thinking about, because my mirror neurons are just like picking up whatever you're putting down. So can you maybe read your menu with your inside voice, right? How many of us can relate? It's like, use your inside voice, because otherwise I'm just going to pay attention to you. My senses, my nervous system is wired to pick up on so much more. And so this is why we need a lot of downtime. We need extra time, just like our introvert friends, or if you're also an introvert like me, a double, right? A sensitive introvert, empath, etc. We need to shut the world out for a bit and just zone out of exterior stuff and zone into ourselves, tune into ourselves. That really, really helps reset ourselves and recharge and be able to be in our own energy, hear our own thoughts, listen to that voice within that guides us and kind of lets us know what the right path is for us, beyond all of the noise outside. Okay. The third component. So we've got the D, O, that's the depth of processing. The O is overstimulation, and the E is emotional reactivity and empathy. So here's where a lot of people are like, well, I'm an empath. Yeah, maybe you're a highly sensitive person, introvert, empath, like I am. Maybe you're one of these characteristics, but these are very, they can be confused one for the other because there's a lot of overlap in all of them. Okay, so emotional reactivity and empathy is one of them. And because HSPs we feel our emotions very intensely. And that is a superpower, because as a life coach, I'm able to feel people's stuff and see people's things and hear people's stuff before they can even see, hear it, or feel it themselves. Or maybe they're unable to, or they really don't want to see it because it's painful. I'm able to see it and help them process it. So it's a tremendous gift, but it's also something that we need to really protect, and we need to I think what I want to say here is this. I think so many of us feel shame for being sensitive. There's probably a moment in your life in which someone in your family, maybe, or in your circle has said, don't be so sensitive. You're too sensitive. And if you didn't know that you're an HSP, if you didn't know that sensitivity has certain characteristics, it's a certain biological setting for your nervous system, you may feel like, yeah, what's wrong with me? And I think that's one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video, because there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. And I wanted to let you know that. And there's absolutely a place for you in the world. and there's a reason why you're designed this way. And the empathy and the high emotional intensity is a big part of it. But the world doesn't know where to place it, doesn't really reward it, especially the Western world. Maybe more in the Eastern world, maybe more in the South and South America, especially for women, maybe not for men. But it is something that we have to honor. Now, this also comes with this emotional reactivity component. And that means if we have emotions intensely, right? We feel them intensely. We can also be highly reactive in that if somebody hurts us, if something happens, we may react in a way that is probably bigger, I'll say that, than the average bear. And we could get offended at certain things that maybe other people wouldn't even hear. They're not even listening to the tone. They're not hearing the subtext of what somebody's saying. We are. So when we hear that and we try to identify that, especially if we're dealing with somebody that doesn't own up to their stuff, is not accountable, doesn't understand themselves really well, doesn't see what we see beyond. If we say, hey, are you saying this because you really mean this? Like, is this the thing? And they're like, no, oh my gosh, why are you saying that? We're gonna feel wrong. I highly, highly encourage you not to feel wrong. I highly encourage you to understand not everybody's going to really see things the way that we see them, to the depth that we go. And if you can handle your reaction, and this depends a lot on your having toned your vagus nerve, having really understood what are the practices for you for nervous system regulation, huge for us, HSPs, okay? Then maybe you can use some practices at that moment so that you take care of your own system in that interaction where clearly you're not going to get an understanding from that other person. And this happens very often in families because this is not something where, well, if one person is sensitive, then everybody in the family is sensitive. It's not like that. It's not like hair color. So you may be the only one in your family that has sensitivity. Maybe you got it from your dad and your dad's no longer in the family. Maybe there's divorce. And so the system, the structure that you stayed with doesn't really support the sensitivity because it doesn't understand it because it doesn't have it. So I would say here also really important, one, to hone your nervous system regulation skills, and two, to have a conversation with your family and your inner circle, your partner, even your children about, hey, this is how I'm built. And sometimes when you say certain things, I will feel it deeper. I will, it'll hit me harder, and just give me a moment and maybe give me a chance to talk about it. Don't stonewall me on it because that will drive us crazy. Okay. So DOE, the E is the emotional reactivity and the empathy. Superpower, not very easily understood in the world. You have to understand it and you have to really protect it by honing what the nervous system practices are for you to regulate yourself when things happen in the world and you're not feeling understood. The S component, DOES, is the sensing and just really tuning into what is subtle. Okay. So we're finally tuned to tiny little tweaks and things in all of our environments. So we just have this connection with whatever's subtle. And that means that we are probably really good at interpreting art, at enjoying a sunset, at looking at the clouds. And if it's about to rain and they're just beautiful and copious and wonderful, we're like, wow, we just feel that super deeply. Okay. We are connected to energy fields. We're connected to energy fields. Everybody's connected to energy fields, but we're connected in a way where we can sense it and feel it and really, really take in the energy. So we might notice things that other people might not notice. Like I said, tone in voice. We're reading body language. We're walking into a room and we're noticing the thing that is out of place. We're probably really good at escape rooms. I've never done one. I don't know if you guys have done one. If you see this video, put it in the comment if you've done one and see if you were actually really good at this. Um, for myself, for example, astrologically, because I'm also an astrologer, I have a midheaven in Virgo, and Virgo is the detail-oriented sign of the zodiac. So in my work as a coach, when I'm helping someone go from point A to point B and achieve their goal, I am fantastic at organizing the step, taking the dream, making it a goal, and then putting a plan, and then putting the step and going step by step so that the person doesn't get overwhelmed because you cannot do anything when you're overwhelmed. And so many people are walking around overwhelmed, even if they're not sensitive, because of the type of world we're living in with social media and EMFs and so many different things, which is a whole other topic for sensitives, by the way. Um, and so I just go granular, really grounded and granular. And I think it really helps my more creative, abstract clients because it's a counterbalance to them. And so yeah, so we're in the details, we're in the subtlety, and that's the sensing the subtle part of the DOES does component of the framework that psychologists usually refer to us by. Now, that's all good and well and good. But when I was reading, and here's what I wanted to share with you. When I was reading the comments of this video that I saw about what is an HSP, I was fascinated by the amount of people that fell into three categories. Three categories that I'm going to say are for hobby as well as career. Okay. Because there's, if you research stuff online for HSP, it's like, oh, what are the ideal careers for HSP? And most of the time, people are recommending things that, of course, our sensitivity is going to shine in, such as therapy, right? Psychologist, psychotherapy, all that stuff. But they don't tell you that when you go into that kind of career, the caretaker career, and this is something that I have coached also nurses on, that there is tremendous caregiver fatigue. And for someone like us as an HSP, that is even bigger because we're not just there doing the surface stuff. We're tuning into that person's emotions, energy field, their thoughts. We're wanting to help because we're sensing so much load. We want to take that load off of that person. And so we go above and beyond to do that job. We can even take the job home. It has happened to me. I remember a client of mine was going through some very difficult emotional stuff. And just that weekend, I could not sleep because this person was very affected and I could hear it and see it in the language. And it really affected me. And I had to work very hard that's after that, I had to work extremely focused on boundaries, and not just boundaries of the kind that are taught in psychology books, but energetic boundaries as well. How do we do that? And I'll share what I do in a second. So, what are these three things that I saw in these comments? So many people, and there were hundreds of comments on this video. So many people said one of three things. And these are categories because they were saying subtleties of these things, and I'll share the subtleties as well. But the categories were this. Yes, I'm an HSP, and this is how I found, and this is what I do for either a career. People were naming this as a career or as a hobby. But this is an activity that they were doing to feel good as a sensitive. And I'll tell you, I do all of these. Okay. Number one, they said, I do gardening. So many people were saying in this video, I quit my corporate job and I became a caretaker of whatever botanical garden. Or I left my 9 to 5 and I started working in herbs. Or I left my job that was stressing me out and really I had to deal with so many people. And I went and I now worked at a, I don't know, nursery, right? In the nursery, the plant nursery, and I have never felt happier. So gardening for an HSP was huge and it makes perfect sense to me. And I do the same. I have my plants that I take care of. They're my babies. I talk to them. I feel the soil. I know because these studies have been done on this and books have been written on this that the plants are hearing you. The plants get really excited when their caretaker is coming home. Did you know this? This is a beautiful thing. Plants can feel when their caretaker's energy is nearby and they react accordingly. And so Gardening is a huge thing for an HSP because nature will balance you. And we need, because we're always playing the role of the balancer, because we can feel other people's things that they're not saying, but they're thinking and feeling. And we tend to be the one in the family, at the job, in the office, even at the grocery store that will jump to aid, to fix, to hold, to see, to hear, all that stuff. We need also, if we don't have that as a tribe or supportive group, we need nature to do that same thing for us, to clean us, to heal us, to hold us. And nature, because nature is just the purest thing that you've got with in terms of energy fields. And so here are these plants and you're surrounded by nature. And I remember, someone saying one time, a biologist friend of mine saying to me, I think when we were on a hike, she said, uh, nature, there are no 90 degrees in nature, meaning, if you look at a plant and nothing is hard angle. And that usually gives our eyes and therefore our brain, our mind, a break because we're looking at things that flow through, things that are not sharp, stop, move, right. And that felt very soothing to our system. And so makes perfect sense. Gardening, nature, that was the first one. Okay. And I was surprised because I think when at the time that I saw the video and I read all those comments, I had just started gardening because I had a little bit of a trauma with a bonsai when I was very, very young, and it died on me. And it was extremely difficult circumstances. My parents were getting divorced, all this whole stuff, and I was just like, I wanted to rescue this plant from this nursery, and then it just died on me because I forgot it in the car as I was moving my family out of our apartment on a timeline into this other place when my parents got divorced. And in the Miami heat where I used to live, it stayed in the car and it just died overnight. And it just broke my heart. Of course, as an HSP, I took it super hard. And there was a belief that just got buried super deep in my mind that said, I have a black thumb. I'm not good with plants. I'm not going to do any gardening because I'm just going to kill the plants. At that time, I was at like early 20s and I didn't know at all anything about limiting beliefs and stuff like that, the way that I work with my coachees right now, the people that I coach, right? And myself, of course, with my own practices. So many years ago, I decided to get rid of that belief and to start gardening. And I, of course, went deep dive into the type of plant that I wanted to have and the reason why and all this stuff and how to take care of all of them. And there they are growing by the feet. Wonderful. So, yeah, we get to garden, HSP people. We get to have some plants and we get to interact. And of course, grounding has got to be tremendous for us, right? I am barefoot Contessa all the way. Okay. I take my shoes off the minute I walk into my place. Everybody else that comes into my place has to take shoes off as well. And I have to feel the ground beneath me. And of course, I like to go to one of my favorite places in the world here in LA, and I'm a member of it, the Huntington Library and Gardens. And I do some grounding there as well because I know that they don't use heavy pesticides or anything like that. It's a botanical garden. So gardening and grounding, nature, use it, surround yourselves by it. That was the first one. The other one I saw in the comments is, I quit my 9 to 5 or I quit my this, blah, 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 and now I'm a fill in the blank for artist, creative person. So, writer, graphic designer, musician, right? All types of musician. Just being in the creative world, just being an artist, I think because highly sensitive people are so they're tuned into the subtle and we can appreciate aesthetic stuff in a way that maybe the average person can't. We can also create it. And at the very least, we can engage in it, and our appreciation of it as we are creating it is so soothing to us. So soothing to us. Beyond whether you have the talent to draw, to paint, to do anything like pottery, which is one of my things. Just being in the sensory creative process is extremely helpful, healing, and home feels like home to us. So art was the second thing I noticed in all of those comments. And I'll tell you because I love pattern recognition is one of my gifts as a strategist. It's pattern recognition. I'm like, okay, I do that with astrology. Obviously, astrology is all about patterns. I do that with my coaching as well. And I'm like, where's the pattern here where this person is going strong here, but not here? Why are we failing here? How do we shift this? Okay, what's the pattern of thinking that's bringing, us to this cluster of beliefs that then is leading us to this behavior? Pattern, 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 right? And so anyway, my art is writing. My art is also writing with beautiful inks. I love Ferris wheel press inks. In fact, I'm going to show you one. I have it here on my desk. These beautiful, beautiful inks like this. I have so many of these. And I'll just take a pen and I'll write my thoughts, or I'll do exercises that I have for nervous system regulation, or for cleaning up, doing shadow work, cleaning up some conscious junk stuff. How is this not beautiful? So beautiful. And I'll write. There's a lot of writing that I do, a lot of journaling that I do for very specific journaling that I've designed for my coachees, that I do in order to do some shadow work, to do some clearing the subconscious, to do an exercise I call crossing the bridge, to really shift from negativity to positivity, or what I like to call into productivity. And so that is part of my art, right? I love writing with pencil because they're very forgiving, and mechanical pencils, number two pencil, just write. And then on top of it, I'll maybe do something even fancier with some ink with my pen, my fountain pen. And so that's a form of art for me. I'm a writer. Before I was a coach, I was a journalist, and I wrote for newspapers, for magazines. I was also on TV. But really, writing is what I studied in college, and print journalism. And so writing was my art. And combining that with something like beautiful inks, where I can then do, a big B, for example. If I'm going to write belief, huge B, fill it in, do some calligraphy, that just soothes my soul. Pouring out my writing, being able to interact with the words, choosing the right words, that fills my soul. Listening to beautiful music, whatever I consider beautiful music, that soothes my soul. Dancing, I'm a Latina. We love to dance. My parents fell in love dancing. So dancing, whatever music, I don't know, Michael Jackson, something soothes my soul. So the arts, creative stuff. Take a mandala, fill it in with colors. Just buy yourself a set of colors and just go. Color therapy is a thing. And for those of us who are taking in a lot of stuff through the senses that maybe we don't want to be exposed to, I don't know, hard angles outside. Maybe you live in the concrete jungle. Doing your artistic, creative work is going to really shift your world. Okay, so that was the second thing I saw in the comments. And the third thing that I saw was, yes, I left my 9 to 5. I did this in order to become a healer. Now, what is a healer? Of course, you could do Reiki, you could become an astrologer like me, or a coach like me, any energy practitioner like Qigong, Tai Chi, people who were really into the healing arts. Okay. It was fascinating to see because they just felt so at home. And I can tell you as well, I've done the same shift. I was a, director in corporate America, and, going into the office in the concrete jungle, downtown LA, in high heels, my dress, all this stuff, doing the thing, traveling, going to Washington, D.C., town hall with the press. I mean, all this different stuff. Okay. And while sure, it was very rewarding because I was good at what I was doing. This was during my journalism content development times. I just felt like the environment was not a fit for me, and I got sick. I got super, like, my skin started to show how I was feeling on the inside. And two doctors diagnosed me with eczema, and I healed myself from it naturally without putting anything on my skin. Just there's a whole protocol that I did with grapes, with somatic exercises, with yin yoga. That's where I discovered yin yoga, with meditation, with breath work, so many different things. Okay. If you want me to do a video on that, let me know in the comments. But that's when I said, I don't really fit in an office. I have to be able to disconnect at the right time. I have to be able to take breaks when I feel it. I have to be able to recharge when I need it. Especially because if you are like me, where I'm a highly sensitive person and I'm also high achieving, high performer person, we go hard. Like if we're in something, we'll go in 150%, well, maybe 110%. And and we'll give it our all. And we're perceiving and we're in and we're tuned in. And then after the whatever intense moment is of whatever problem we have to solve at the job or whatever it might have been that I was doing then, content, Spanish, English, doing stuff, a whole campaign, then I needed a break and I needed to recharge. And I think maybe even if you're not sensitive, you understand what I'm talking about, but some people are better at those kinds of environments than others. And I think it's people who are maybe not that tuned into their needs because I think the average, I'm not going to say all, but the average office or corporate environment has a high amount of toxicity in the way it's designed. Wouldn't it be something to go in there and shift things and do something different? Maybe that's what I'll do as well. But I found that working from home was the best thing for me. And that's what I do now. I work from home and have my own space, and it's fantastic. And it feels like I can do the thing that I need to do and then do the thing that I need to do for myself after I take care of all the people that I need to take care of. So, healers. Now so these are the three things that I found in the comments. So this is what people were saying. This is the shift that I made, and this is what made me feel so much better as an HSP. Either something in nature like gardening, something in the arts like writing, creating, drawing, painting, etc., or a healer, something in the healing arts. So like qigong or like Reiki or something. I just became someone who was more spending more time doing the thing that my sensitivity was designed to shine in. I think that's probably the biggest component of this video that I want to share with you. Find your art. Take care of a plant, do some gardening, find some way to get in contact with soil. Surround yourself by trees, but have that practice. I say gardening because then that means you have to continuously be on it with it. You have to be in that environment because you got to water, you got to do the thing, you got to uproot the weeds, you have to all this stuff. And so you're in that environment on a consistent basis. And thirdly, find your healing art as well. I'm certified as a Yin Yoga teacher, as a Reiki practitioner, in traditional Chinese medicine nutrition. I know all about meridians and fascia. The fascia conversation was in my environment before it even became popular, which is popular now, right? So many of these things, guided imagery, and so many of these things I use in my coaching because they're naturally things that I gravitate towards. A lot of these things I didn't study for my coaching practice. I studied them for me because I was interested in them. Because when I got sick, because I was in a corporate environment, I needed to find something to heal myself. Yin yoga was there for me. I didn't know that holding a pose for 2 to 5 minutes instead of 2 to 5 breaths, what the effect of that would be on my body, on my mind, on my system. I had no idea. This is before people were talking about nervous system regulation and then the fascia and then interstitial fluid and all this stuff, which everyone is now starting to be privy on. I was feeling this effect of the yin yoga. And when the first class I remember that I did, and this was when I was healing the eczema with food, um, I just felt like, what is this? I think I took the class because there wasn't any other yoga available, and that studio happened to have that at that time, and I went to do that. And I just went, what? Because how I felt that day, the sleep I got that day, I wasn't scratching with the eczema. If you've ever had eczema, if this is something you live with chronically and people have told you this is something that you have for the rest of your life, don't believe them because I healed my own. But if you've had it, you know that you almost can't sleep from how much you're itching. Okay. And so the yin yoga relaxed my nervous system so much that it allowed me to just like have a great night of sleep that day. So anyway, those three things I think you need to have as components in your life. You got to have your art, creative art. You got to have your healing art, and you got to have your nature art, gardening, whatever it might be, trimming a bonsai or something like that, pruning, all this stuff. Pruning is so satisfying. I got to tell you, when I prune my plants, Pittosporum are my main plants. I have some silver sheen bush Pittosporum. The trimming and the stuff, or like trimming roses in the winter, which I learned from the taking a class at the Huntington Library and Gardens, is so satisfying for me. I think that's my midheaven in Virgo as well. We like to edit, and I was an editor when I was in journalism as well, and I found that even sometimes more satisfying than writing or creating. There's the creating, there's the editing, there's the putting the plant in the soil and all this stuff together, and then there's the pruning. Both are needed. I do both with my coaching as well. We create the life. We also take away all the stuff that doesn't belong with that new version of life you want to go into. So, so, so satisfying. Anyway, okay. And so, what else do I want to tell you? I want to tell you this. Online, you're going to find that when they recommend careers to you, there's going to be a lot of therapy and psychology and counselor and all that stuff. And again, like I said before, you can do that. But for people who are built like us, who are highly sensitive, who are picking up other people's stuff, energy, and sometimes taking them home, you need to have certain things in place for that. Either don't go in there, don't opt for those kinds of careers, and opt for, the other three that I said, like you've got your healing arts, you've got your which yeah, I'll go into this maybe. Okay, you've got your writers, your musicians. A lot of times this work is done on your own. You've got your gardening, your nature, maybe nature guide or something like that. But when it comes to the healer therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, all that kind of person where you're really interacting with somebody's uh, pain, suffering, difficulty, overwhelm, stress, all that kind of stuff. If you're sensitive, you can easily take on that. So you can either choose to opt out of doing that, okay? Or because I don't see people talking about this online when they research, it's like, this is what you should do because you must be really good at it because you're so sensitive. Yeah, but then you come home and you're like, so here's what you need to do, okay? And here's the stuff that I practice as well. You can opt for, if you're going to go into therapy, healing, and all this stuff, you can definitely do it online, okay? So therefore, you have some kind of distance, a boundary already set up between you and the client. Okay? Because as we process deeply and intensely all the senses that are available to us, all the sensory input, we are going to feel more overwhelmed. But sometimes what I find is doing my work online, I'm able to really focus on the client without any other distractions that may be in either their environment or my environment or whatever environment we have in common, and even their own field of energy and other things that may come out. And I can really choose to focus on the thing that I think will be most helpful for them and that they're really wanting to work on. So the computer or the screen acts as a boundary that allows you to focus on the thing and not take on anything else that you don't need to take on. So I would recommend that, okay? Again, another thing, if you choose to focus on being a healer, being a therapist, psychologist, psychotherapist, any other stuff, hypnotherapist, all this stuff, if you can do it online, fantastic. That is a way to really limit the input, the sensory input, and to allow you to focus, which is going to be you using your energy in a much more effective way. Okay, using your sensitivity in a much more effective way. Unless, of course, you do the kind of stuff like Reiki, which you can do Reiki at a distance. There's definitely Reiki at a distance, but maybe some people are massage therapists and they have to do it in person. Of course, that wouldn't work for that. In that case, or the second thing that I would recommend for if you do want to go into these healing jobs or hobbies or part-times, find yourself a way to be well-resourced. What do I mean by well-resourced? Well, you have to have all your practices in place that'll help you recharge, regulate, recover, repair, whatever it is that when you get depleted, you need to then step into, put into action so that you can come back to your center and your homeostasis, the way that you are feeling balanced and well. Okay. So you have to be very resourced. All right. So you either do it online, you have that boundary, you have focus, or, and, or, okay, if you can't do that, you can definitely make sure that you are very well resourced with practices and skills and tools and techniques that allow you to quickly and frequently and shortly after you have depleted yourself, come back to your optimal state, your recharge state. There are so many I can, that I apply with my coachees, I apply myself, but you can easily probably research this online and say, okay, what are some of the things that I can do in order to fill my cup back up or recharge or etc. Among them, of course, meditation, yoga, qigong, tai chi, well hydrating yourself. We're channels of energy. Hydrate a ton. Top off your hydration. And I don't just mean with water or 8 glasses of water a day. Check on this when it comes to your weight, because the amount of water you need is dependent on your height, your weight, all of this, okay? But I mean also high live food. Fruits that are high in H3O, right, which is water that is within the fruit or the vegetable or the plant that your body can extract it, but it's already electrified, it's mineralized, and it's something that your fascia and your interstitial can use really, really effectively, maybe with a less amount, but just more quality. Okay, so not just drink a ton of water. Have your pear, have your apple, have your orange, have your salads, have your soups, drink your broths, do all of that. Okay. And the last thing that I think I want to say when it comes to if you do choose to become a healer, or you choose to do a career or a hobby where you are interacting with people, using your sensitivity, like maybe psychologists, etc. Dive deep into the nervous system regulation and make sure that you have daily practices for regulating yourself. Out of all the resources, right? We've got, okay, maybe you go online. All right, that's great. That's one way to deal with it. Maybe you get very well resourced. Out of all of these resources, one vertical of those gets to be how to regulate your system. My favorite, 4-7-8 breath. I think clinically proven to go from sympathetic to parasympathetic. If you don't know anything about nervous system regulation, let me know in the comments and I'll do something. I'll do a video about that. But I think it's a hot topic right now, and so many people are already informed that maybe it's not necessary. But if you want me to, I will do it. There are so many different ways to regulate your nervous system. Toning your vagus nerve is the main thing. I think it's something that is so talked about, and the 4-7-8 breath does that. It works with the vagus nerve. It works, I think any kind of breath work and any kind of mantralization where you're using a or reverberating, vibrating sound through your throat, that will have an effect on the vagus nerve. I have it so down to a science with the practice, and it really helped me at a time when I needed to heal my body from work stress, that I used to practice it 4 times, 4 breaths, once or twice a day, 4-7-8 breath. And usually by the fourth breath, I was already doing this parasympathetic sigh, which is a sign, where you're like, you're doing that breath, that sigh, that lets you know that you're no longer in sympathetic state, which is the fight or flight, fight, flight, fawn, a friend. Your alert state, your like danger state, something's going to happen, threat state. And I was already had shifted into parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest. You're like, hey, it's, I'm chill. I can digest a meal really well. I can go to the bathroom and eliminate really well. All of this stuff is connected. Okay. I can sleep, etc. And so as the more I practiced it, it became that by the third breath, I was already parasympathetic sigh. I had already shifted. Now it's by the second breath. So by the second time I'm doing 4-7-8 breath, I'm already like, I know that I'm toning my capacity. My nervous system has an increased capacity for not only taking in stressors and threats, but also for staying in the Zen moment with those stressors and threats, and also for recovering from those. In fact, I went to a get together the other day, and we all know for HSPs, getting together with tons of people at a party with music and dancing and all this stuff, very Hispanic, um, can be a challenge. I had such a great time, and I had some feedback from a friend of mine who said to me, I know you said you've been going through some stuff this past year and things, but you looked so relaxed. Your energy was so good. You even looked younger. And I'm like, well, thank you. At my 49th year, I almost 50 years old. I really appreciate that feedback. But I know it's because I have been working on my nervous system. And because HSPs are highly sensitive people, by definition, because of our nervous system regulation. This is why I highlighted out of the three things. It's not a part of your, hey, be very well resourced. This is a whole other category because we have to have many tools and a lot of frequency, a lot of time and focus given to nervous system regulation. Not only will you feel better, but it will take, if you do participate in the healing arts, if you're a coach, if you're a therapist, if you're a psychologist, if you're anything like that, it will like triple, quadruple, whatever, 10x your capacity to hold space, um, have more clients, help more clients in a deeper way. This is why I put it as like, take it outside of the resource and make it its own category. Okay, so be very regulated, be very mindful of being very well regulated, especially also because one of the best ways to regulate other people, to help them become more regulated, if people you're working with people like that are anxious or overwhelmed or whatever it may be, is to co-regulate. So if you are zen, if you are regulated, if you're at peace, if you are calm, that's an automatic regulation mechanism for the people who are not. So rather than you pick up on their stress and you get anxious and you get bent out of shape, which used to happen to me as a sensitive person, now you're the regulating component for other people. But this only happens when you do the work of really toning and really increasing your tolerance as well and your capacity. Okay, so I would really, 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 really recommend that. Now, last notes on this. I know it can be maybe a long video, but if you're still here with me, we got this. All right, we got this. There's just a little bit more that I want to share with you. And one of those things is most of your family is probably not the same. So you're probably going to feel like they don't get it. Okay. I don't want you to feel wrong for that. I don't want you to make them wrong for that either. I just want you to understand that this world here, this nervous system here, the central nervous system that we have, that then extends to the peripheral nervous system, is unique. So nobody has to understand it. You do have to understand it. Dive deep into understanding it. Communicate to other people if you want and if they're open to it, what it is like and what your experience is like for you, because most of your family, again, probably just won't get it until you maybe slip the book, like, hey, little highly sensitive person book here, Merry Christmas. Or you have if you have good communication with your family, you have a deep conversation. You say, hey, listen, by the way, this is my design, my makeup. These are the pros. These are, maybe the challenges. And maybe you have experienced some of these things with me. This is how I experience some of those things. This is how I prefer to maybe recharge or maybe not go to as many parties. Like I can't handle like 4 nights of family gatherings in a row, for Christmas. I need a little bit less than that. Or if we're going to do that and that's the plan and we're all going to go together, then I need my own room. I need some space. Don't take it personal. This is just how I'm built and this is how I feel well. Okay. So the second thing to that would be find your tribe. Mm. Find your tribe. Obviously, I'm your tribe because we're highly sensitive together, right? We're highly sensitive people, understand other highly sensitive people. But I would also suggest that you find your tribe when it comes to interests. And YouTube is fantastic for that because interests are the thing that YouTube now, thanks to AI algorithms and all this stuff, that's what it's about, right? So if you're interested in, I don't know, astrology, right, which is one of my things, or you're interested in gardening, or you're interested in journaling, or you're interested in, I don't know, inks like me or whatever, right? This beautiful little, look at that. I just want to show you this. I don't know if you have seen the Ferris wheel press, but look at these beauties. Oh my goodness. Look at that. It's just like, it's like Alice in Wonderland, dream come true. I don't know. Um, which is one of my favorite stories. Find your people. Honor what you're interested in. Maybe it's gardening, maybe it's, I don't know, petunias in particular, maybe it's Ferris wheel press inks like me, maybe it's writing, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's movies. I love movies because as a writer, stories really move me. Maybe it's something else, but find your people that are interested in the same things because that will I guarantee you in within those interests you will find some highly sensitive people as well, especially if those interests are in the nature world, artistic, or in the healing world, right? Creative or in the healing world. So find your tribe through that. Dive deep into some of these worlds and find your people. I think the other thing I want to say, the third thing I want to say is honor your alone time. Those of us who are highly sensitive have a deep, rich inner world. You have to be in constant contact with it. Otherwise, you will lose yourself. Do not lose yourself. You are so valuable exactly how you are. And all the insights that you get as a deeply sensitive person, your way of seeing the world needs to be honored, needs to be honed, needs to be heard by other people. Okay. So do you. If other people want to do, connecting 24/7 with each other, you honor your alone time. Just make sure that you have that space. And I think your best friend here is your calendar. I always look at my coaches, especially if we have a project that we're doing together or a particular shift and something that's related to work or professional things. What's going on in your calendar? Did you set block time to do A, B, and C? No. Okay, then it's not going to get done. I mean, unless you're ADHD, then usually we work with post color, different color ways of rearranging things because there's just the brain is built differently, which is another fascinating thing, by the way. Highly creative people usually tend to have more neurodivergent brains. And so honor your alone time, use your calendar for it. If the time is blocked in your calendar, you don't have to explain to anyone. It's like, it's like, listen, the calendar, it's not going to work for me. It's in the calendar. That time is off. Well, what are you doing at that time? I am I have a meeting. Who cares if it's a meeting with yourself? I've got a very important meeting I cannot miss with your inner child, with your highly sensitive self, with your inks, with your notebooks, with your crystals. I don't know. Figure it out. Have a speech prepared for yourself. A lot of times with my coaches, when they're shifting patterns, when it comes to shifting patterns with the family or other people, it's like, let's script it and let's rehearse the script so that you feel like you can say it. Because I know that's a lot of times another block. And I think that's where I want to come to the last and fourth thing, boundaries. Okay. Um, Boundaries and saying no, which tends to be hard for us because we're perceiving what other people need, we're perceiving other people's stuff, we're tuning into fields, we're tuning into feelings, we're tuning into thoughts, we're picking up all this stuff. And right away, we want to answer the call if somebody needs something. And boundaries and saying no is huge. It's part of our self-care and well-being, has to be part of your practices. Saying no without having to explain is, and no, of course, is a one-word sentence, right? Is going to be probably transformative. If you don't have that in place, first thing I would ask for you to do is play with that. And setting boundaries and saying no are not the same thing. So saying no is a way to set boundaries, but boundaries, you have time boundaries, space boundaries, um, uh, many different things, okay? Where you're like, well, this is my space, and I'm just going to say, well, I decline the invitation to share the space. Or, time, like, hey, do you have 5 minutes for this? Well, I can do it maybe 5 minutes at the end of the hour, but right now I've got some other things that I have in place. Or you can just get really good at saying, not right now. No, uh-uh. As simple as that. And people will get used to it. People will get more and more used to it. I think the first thing that I teach my clients is also that the first person that you have to say no to is yourself. So being able to set boundaries with people on the outside is also being able to say, listen, I know that you maybe wanna A, B, and C, but hard no on that because you're gonna get depleted. You're gonna not, feel well. If you eat too much chocolate, you're gonna think too much. I remember someone saying to me one time, I was getting an energy healing, a very high frequency woman. She's great. And at the end of the healing, she said, and I was just like laying down, she's just doing her thing. And she said to me, "Do you drink coffee or chocolate?" And I said, "No, I don't drink coffee. I'm too sensitive for that. Like literally, I just don't. Zero. I don't drink either. None of that stuff. I keep my stuff pretty clean, except for I have a sweet tooth." And so I said, "Yeah, I do chocolate. I like chocolate, but I don't do it very much because also like, it does some things to me." She's like, "Yeah, no, you have a very your mind races. Like you have so much information coming in that it's too much stimulation. This will just make it worse." And of course, both coffee and chocolate have caffeine, and so that accelerates your nervous system processing and all this stuff. And so for someone like us who already has a nervous system that is going a million miles an hour and is taking in a ton more information than other people, not helpful. So had to say no a lot of times to chocolate, which I love. Susie's cake, chocolate cake. I'm coming for you at some point, not right now. Okay, so there you have it. Some of these things I know for a fact because I've put them into play in my life will help you a ton to navigate this world as a highly sensitive person. Interacting with nature, having a creative practice, stepping into the healing arts, setting your boundaries, saying no, finding your tribe according to your interests so that you don't feel like you're alone and you don't feel like something's wrong with you and you're not too sensitive, you're not too much, you're not too anything. Understanding and surrendering to the fact that probably most of your family and maybe your inner circle from childhood won't get it. Um, Shifting careers out of an environment that doesn't support you into an environment like the ones that I described that support you more. And just really understanding, you know, what a highly sensitive person is will help you 1,000% to navigate this life so much more with a higher self-esteem, I think, because once you understand how you are, once you get to know yourself, understand yourself, you can love yourself, and that will raise your self-esteem. You're like, listen, I value what I bring to the table. I know who I am. I know why I am that way. I know what it does for the world and for people. I know the transformations I can affect on people just by shining my light, just by picking up on what other people are not willing to say. And when you have that perspective and that self-acceptance and that self-honoring and that understanding and that compassion for yourself as well, God, you can do that for everyone in the world. And what a beautiful thing to interact with that kind of person, and how wonderful it is to walk around the world valuing that. Okay. And so, find your best tool for self-regulation, for regulating your nervous system, for understanding how to get back into your, equalized homeostasis, Zen point. Be very resourced. Find other things to have as a part of your toolkit so that you can increase your capacity, so that you can regulate yourself, so that you can feel happy, so that you can take care of yourself. And then if you are going to choose to do work that this gift that we have is so good at, such as being a healer, being a coach, being a psychotherapist, being a hypnotherapist, dealing with people one-on-one, dealing with people and their pain, their suffering, their need for shifting out of overwhelm, anxiety, all of these different things. If you're going to do that, consider going online. Make sure you have strong boundaries. Make sure that you know that there are many different ways to work with people in a way that it will work for you as an HSP. Okay? I know this will help you navigate this world, not just in a way that is better, but in a way that it makes your experience as an HSP so much more enjoyable. And that's kind of what we're about, because we look at a sunset and we're like, whoa. All right. So you get to do that. You get to have more of those moments and less of the moments in which you're crying through the weekend because you don't have the resources, you didn't have the boundaries, you don't know how to regulate, and you surrounded yourself by environments that weren't supportive or valued what you bring to the table. None of that is necessary. I've been there. I know it's painful, and it's not the best use of your gift. This is a gift that we have. We get to use it in the best, sort of uh, roles, in the best environments, and with the best tribe and the best people that will really deeply value that. And all of that I've given you in this video is exactly that, because the creatives will value that. The people who are in nature or gravitate towards nature will definitely value that. The people who are the healers will absolutely value that, because these are your people. These are our people. Okay. So I hope this video helped you. I know that this information would help me. This is why I wanted to put it out there. And leave me comments and let me know how this landed for you. If you're a creative, if you're a healer, if you're an artist, if you're someone who is nature oriented or does some gardening, if any of this was helpful, if you want me to dive deeper into anything else, let me know. And I will see you in the next video. So much love.